Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel where we review anything and everything. And today we are getting into just imagining, I guess, or predicting what the new Hammond Collection T-Rex will end up looking like. Because obviously they're going to end up remaking the Hammond Collection T-Rex because he was the first large one that they ever made, and we know that he is due for a redo or a reimagining. And there are so many things about him that are dated. There's so many things about this figure that were dated almost right away, and I say that not to say when he came out it was dated right away, but that very shortly afterwards, they started creating other Hammond Collection figures that came right behind him, not as large as he was, but smaller ones that right away made it show like there were a lot of things about him obsolete. I think the biggest one that came out pretty early on from that time. Now, this wasn't the exact same time that he came out, but shortly afterwards was the Carnotaurus. Really set the bar in terms of detail, in terms of the correct posability, the joints and everything like that. And since that time, I think that certain ones have gotten even better, where they've even gone away from the multi-jointed tail. And now you see in ones like the Allosaurus, which I've done a review on before, but in some of these bigger ones too, you see it in the Spinosaurus, you see it in the Giganotosaurus the Giganotosaurus has, he has jointed, a multi-jointed tail, which I don't remember off the top of my head right now. It's weird. I believe the Spinosaurus came out after the fact. I don't know if the Allosaurus, who's got a single jointed tail similar to the Spinosaurus, came out before the Giganotosaurus. Not too sure, but the Giganotosaurus has Giganotosaurus. If I go back and forth with that, don't mind. That has a multi-jointed tail. Which you could see right here. But I guess its tail is so long, maybe it had to be done because its tail is long. I think it's probably the longest of the large theropods in terms of the length of the tail, where Spinosaurus's tail is long, but not as long. It's a single jointed tail. Now, when it comes to many of the other things that were corrected immediately, like I said, in the Hammond Collection line that came out, I'm really focusing on theropods more than anything else, because obviously that is the basis for the T-Rex, so even the Carnotaurus and whatever the case is. But obviously, because that one I think was the one that came out nearest to it in terms of a medium-sized theropod. Obviously, the ones that came out later even improved it more. I think that the T-Rex would benefit from, obviously they would get rid of this torso joint, which makes no sense. So here's a lot of the things that right away they realized was obsolete on him. You have the torso joint was obsolete. You had these knee joints, I think, were obsolete as well, because even though they work for posability, you could see that in ones like the Spinosaurus and the Giganotosaurus that they just have this one knee joint, and that's kind of really all you need. You don't need this enhanced level of articulation. I think it causes more issues in terms of posing and getting the right stance than it does as a benefit. At least for me, it's been that way, because the way his legs are bent here, it feels like it becomes more challenging for it to be a more realistic stance than the way it was before. Obviously, this joint is fine too, but in the Giganotosaurus, and I have Spinosaurus in the back there. So let me move this, because this one I'm going to speak a little bit on as well. That's part of the main line, but there's some aspects about that I think are going to come into play as well. But the knee joints, well, this is like, what is the heel, I'm not too sure what joint we're gonna call it, because I know dinosaurs' joints are different, but this joint right here, I think, is less pronounced, and there's extra skin coming over it on like the Giganotosaurus, and so it gives it more of a real look, in my opinion. Obviously, one of the main things they're gonna have to do is change the feet size on it, And I think that the teeth were actually done pretty bad too. But what was kind of a shame with this was that the teeth were done, in my opinion, not so great because they're a little too thick and not as sharp. I won't say that they're too thick. They don't come down into a point the way they should. They're not as sharp, and the color on them seem a little too yellowish and painted on, where I think that natural, more bone color that most of the other ones have would have been fine, even if you have a light tint on it, not so heavy. But I think what made it really ashamed was the fact that ones that came before it already had better teeth in the main line. So I think that hurt it. Obviously, it set the tone with the jaw muscles. The realistic tongue was there since I forget the name of it right now. The epic roaring T-Rex. So that became a staple there. The tongues feel slightly different, but I did a comparison on it before on the channel, and they're for the most part the same thing. The glass eye was, at first they did it in a way where you couldn't see it that well. Then they kind of did an update to it where it was, you can see it more. And this is one of the ones that you can actually see it more, which is great. So you could see it there at a glance. Normally you couldn't see it at a glance. You'd have to be trying to wiggle it around and different angles. You can't see it. This one you can kind of see it head on, slightly at an angle. So you could see it so much better. But where the flaw comes in with the Hammond Collection now is with the Indominus, they took away the glass eye. So we don't know if moving forward they're going to keep getting rid of the glass eye. But it was a premium feature that a lot of people loved. And the truth is, it's always been a premium feature in dinosaur toys since dating back to when I just would have recently put out a video on this, dating back to Dino Riders, which was what I consider the first premium dinosaur toy for back in its time. And that set the tone with glass eyes, because anyone who was familiar back then, you didn't have dinosaur toys with glass eyes, and that set the tone. All the dinosaur toys had glass eyes. So this is a premium feature that I really hope they don't get rid of. Now, what are my thoughts with what they could do to perfect it? We already know there's certain things they're going to do automatically in the line that's going to be a given. They're going to do that, and it is what it is. So certain things we already know they're going to do based on, like I said, the Spinosaurus and which is back there. I just like that pose sometimes. The Spinosaurus and the Giganotosaurus. Based on them, we already know they're going to change these knee joints. They're going to get rid of the large feet. They're going to get rid of the torso joint. And they may or may not get rid of the double jointed tail in favor of a single jointed tail, which I actually kind of would prefer because it leaves less chances of it getting loose, because you have things like that happen. But at the same time, if they feel the tail is too long, because I think the T-Rex tail is a little longer than the Spinos tail, they might feel that it needs to have the double joint. But I will say this, the Allosaurus, which is known to have a very long tail in proportion to its body, in general, the Hammond Collection figure has a single jointed tail, and then the rest is the bendable, and it's a very long tail. So they can do it if they choose to. I don't know where they'll go with that. That's kind of up in the air. Some of the features that I think, though, beyond the ones I just mentioned, which will obviously already make it better, is one, you have to change the shaping too. They went here with this bulbous shape because of the articulation here. If you change that out, and let me just move this figure off to the side for a second. If you change it out, you can get more of a, really sculpted stomach area, which I've always praised on a few of the other figures that I have reviewed on the channel before, even from the main line, or even the Carnotaurus. And I always said that was a good example. I love the way that the stomach rolls are and this and that. And so they continue that here where you don't have the joint, but it gives more details in that stomach. You can see the bulging of the stomach where it goes. You see the indentation where the leg fits in. It just feels more natural rather than a barrel. The T-Rex looks like it has a barrel torso. It doesn't look natural. So that's something that I'm sure is going to happen, which is going to be to great effect because it's going to really benefit the line in general. Now, another feature that they can incorporate, which would then change the line or become another huge upgrade if they chose to do it. And I don't know if they'll choose to do it, but obviously we've always had, now on the main Rex, on the Hammond Collection Rex, we had this part was hard plastic, and then this part was hard plastic, and this was soft to have the articulation of the wire. That was the only soft part. Now, on the Hammond Collection Spinosaurus and even the Allosaurus, as I mentioned, because the whole tail is single jointed, you're able to make the entire tail a soft material. If you want to call it lifelike, you know what I mean, or skin-like, or whatever you want to call it, like that. That term, real feel. I'm sorry, that's the term I was looking for. Real feel. It's not intended to be real feel, but it gives you that illusion, because anything that's soft, we count it as real feel, especially when it has some kind of hard structure underneath it. It gives that sense of bones, flesh over bones. Now, I say that to say they could easily go the route of bringing another level of evolution to the Hammond Collection, where they introduce, because this was my favorite, the Red Rex's real feel in all aspects of it. They already do it with the tail. You could do it with the body, because the body doesn't need to articulate. Now that they're gonna get rid of, because they've already been doing it now, getting rid of the barrel torso joint. He's shaped like a barrel. I just think it's so funny. You can now make this real feel. The neck, granted, they normally have joints in them, as you can see here, like this first joint and a second joint. You could make it where the first joint starts, that the rest of it is hard plastic. You could do that. Or you might try to be able to pull off something where the skin is a little bit looser, but you know, you're able to have the joints underneath it, similar to the Brachiosaurus. Now, the Brachiosaurus has a very long neck, so you get a little more play to do that with. But for the most part, a lot of these figures don't necessarily need, to be, they can have the soft skin on top in a lot of areas. Now, you wouldn't really have them over the legs per se, but I think you still can kind of pull them off, because where you have on the Giganotosaurus is a good, perfect example. This area here, the joint here flaps inside here. You don't have this kind of, similar to the Hammond Collection Rex, we have that multi-joints all in the knee. So it's a little less moving parts. Now, you could get away with just leaving the toes just the way, the feet just the way they are without being real feel skin, and the rest of it can be that. And I think that works too, because like I said, this one had a good enough proportion to where it worked in all the areas that, would be bendable, or hard plastic with areas where you need joints, and then the real feel skin in the areas where you don't need. So like, I definitely think they can get away with that completely, and that would take it to another evolution. Would people want that? I don't know, but I definitely think it will take things to another evolution. Could they pull it out with the joints as well? I think they could, but once again, that becomes something that might be a little difficult. But nonetheless, I really do think they put so much into these figures, and the evolution of them has happened so fast. One other thing that I think they should do, and I know this kind of will take away from the realism of the figures of the Hammond Collection and whatnot, is that always on the feet, they're really nice as far as the details on the bottom, and then you have the painted toes. But one thing I like about, say, a figure like this, even though it's from the main line, it's not a Hammond Collection, is, and this one is so heavy, it's got so much electronics in it because you can feel the weight, which is nice. I like the fact that on the bottom, it's not going to look as good because of the different mold. So you're not getting that same level. Like, you have the detail, but it's a different color, which takes away versus like what you saw on the Giganotosaurus's bottom feet. But this not having to be paint and being a different mold, I like that. Now, granted, if someone's just posing their Hammond Collection figures on a shelf, the painted nails are very shiny. They look nice. They have that glossy look, and some people will love that, and it's good. But I really do like this. By having a separate mold, it's never going to wear. It's never going to scrape the paint off. So always have that look, where a lot of people, I don't know, depending on who's roughing their figures up, the paint might start to come off on the Hammond Collection ones, even though I think the paint is definitely a little bit more durable than probably the mainline ones. But this right here, I think, is really nice. So that's something where I think would be nice if it was implemented in there. So we'll definitely see what happens with that. But I definitely think that, like I said, that time is coming soon where we are going to get the updated Rex figure. And I think we already know all the updates that can be done to it right off the bat, because we already know that from the evolution of the line, they just need to pass that over. Question is, will they go to the next level of a higher evolution, or will they just simply update it on all the newer things that they already implement in the line right now with the larger theropods? And even more so, will they regress the line to some degree by removing the glass eye, which they already did in the Indominus? So you guys put down your comments down below. We can't wait to find out and when that time comes. But as always, you guys, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.